Illustrator has 3 different drawing modes that can be used to save time when creating artwork. These modes include Draw Normal, Draw Behind, and Draw Inside. All of these drawing modes have their benefits. Let's take a look at how each one works. Now I'm beginning this video with the drawing_modes.ai file already open on my computer. And what I'd like to do is show you how the different drawing modes work. The drawing modes can be accessed down here at the bottom of our Tools panel. You'll notice that I have 3 different buttons that can be used to change which drawing mode I want to use. Now in addition, we can change the drawing modes not only by clicking on the different drawing modes, but also by using the keyboard shortcut Shift-D on our keyboard. And by pressing Shift-D, this is going to cycle through the available drawing modes that we have here. Now right now, this can only cycle between the 2 different drawing modes because the 3rd drawing mode requires that I have an object selected. So we're going to start with Draw Normal, and this is really how Illustrator works by default. Now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to grab my rectangle tool. And what I'll do is I'll set my stroke to none, and let's set our fill to some different color here. I'll use the orange color to start. Now the way that the normal drawing mode works is that it simply adds to the top of the stacking order of the layer that you're working on. So if I click and drag to draw a rectangle, it's simply going to draw a rectangle at the very top of the stacking order of the layer that I'm working on. Let me show you what I mean. If I open my Layers panel and I open the active layer, you'll notice that this orange rectangle now appears way at the top of our stacking order. I'm going to go ahead and draw another rectangle on top of that. I'll change the fill color for a second. And you'll notice that if I go to my Layers panel, that has now been added to the top of the stacking order above the last object that's in the stacking order. So that's how Draw Normal works. It just keeps adding one on top of another. So I'm going to delete these objects here. And the next mode we have is Draw Behind. So Draw Behind is essentially the inverse of Draw Normal, because what Draw Behind does is it draws behind everything else on the active layer. So if I turn on Draw Behind, I can either click on it or press Shift-D on my keyboard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag to draw a rectangle all the way behind everything else on my artboard. So when I let go, you're going to notice that this time, instead of putting it way up here at the top of the stacking order, it's way down here at the bottom of the stacking order. It'll just keep drawing objects at the very bottom of the stacking order of that layer. Now I'm going to delete that shape as well, because the next thing I'm going to do is show you the Draw Inside mode. So in order to activate Draw Inside, I need to select an object. So I'm going to grab my selection tool, click on the ampersand to make it active, and then I'm going to press Shift-D on my keyboard. And you'll notice down here that the 3rd drawing mode, Draw Inside, has now been made active. And this ampersand now has these corner markers around it, indicating that Draw Inside has been enabled on that shape. At this point, I can click off of it to deselect it, and you'll notice these corner markers still appear around the ampersand. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my ellipse tool, and I'm going to change my fill color to maybe this lighter green here. And we'll go back to the Layers panel so we can see what happens. So I'm just going to start drawing some circles that intersect with this ampersand. So as I click and drag, you'll notice that now everything I do is drawing inside of the shape. Maybe do one more. And now we can see that everything we've done is drawn inside of that ampersand. Now let's take a look at what has happened inside of the Layers panel. I'm going to go ahead and switch to my selection tool. And if you come over here to the Layers panel, you'll notice that we have a new clipping group that's been created. And it's essentially, if I open this up a little bit more, you'll see that here is the compound path that is the ampersand. But here are all the shapes that are within this clipping group. And what you can do if you need to modify these after you've created them, we can actually click on the target button over here to the right of each shape, and that'll activate the shape itself. And then you can click on this center marker to reposition that object within the clipping group. So you can click on each one of these and just select the one that you want to move, and then just click and drag to reposition it. So Draw Behind not only allows you to draw real time on a shape that you have selected, but it also lets you make edits after the fact. If you want to turn off the Draw Inside mode for an object, we simply click on it to make it active, and then press Shift-D on the keyboard to go back to Draw Normal. As you can see, these different drawing modes can save you quite a bit of time when you know how to use each one. Now that you understand these drawing modes, I'm sure you'll put them to good use in your own artwork.